the God of this world. This is why the First Amendment is interpreted as prohibiting the free exercise of Christianity while defending the rights of all other religions. The Bible explains why the world is so prejudiced against Christians and not other religions. And even if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing, in whose case the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelieving so that they might not see the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. So we shouldn't be amazed, should we, by what is happening in the closing days of this age? Lord Jesus warned, if the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you are of this world, the world system, the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of this world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Folks, we're on the downhill side of this trip now. We're beginning to see the momentum against Judeo-Christianity approach critical mass. This means that it's time to get your house in order, not only your physical, financial, and family affairs, but also your spiritual ones. I believe that before Jesus appears to snatch away the church, we're going to face some times of hardship and persecution. This is, in fact, already happening to our brothers and sisters in many parts of the world. But don't make the mistake of thinking it won't happen here in America. The hatred is really rising in this country against Christianity. It's right around the corner, folks. I'll be back in a moment. Hal Lindsey Media Ministries is pleased to announce yet another easy way for you to support the Hal Lindsey Report. Our new toll-free telephone number, 1-888-RAPTURE. By calling this toll-free number, you can obtain copies of the show on DVD. You can also give a tax-deductible gift or designate a monthly pledge to help keep this program on the air. Supporting the Hal Lindsey Report has never been easier. Operators are standing by 24 hours a day, ready to take your call. So call today, toll-free, 1-888-RAPTURE or 1-888-727-8873. Please call today. During a commencement address at Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia on Sunday, President Obama told the graduating class that one of the problems they face in the real world is that of too much unfiltered information. His speech to a generation of students who never knew life before computers came close to declaring information technology an enemy of the people. The president said, with so many voices clamoring for attention on blogs, on cable, on talk radio, it can be difficult at times to sift through it all, to know what to believe, to figure out who's telling the truth and who's not. He told the graduates, let's face it, even some of the craziest claims can quickly gain traction. I've had some experience with that myself. According to the president, the graduating class is coming of age in a 24/7 media environment that bombards us with all kinds of content and exposes us to all kinds of arguments, some of which don't always rank all that high on the truth meter. Sounds to me like Mr. Obama was telling students that being exposed to all kinds of arguments is a bad thing. I couldn't believe I heard an American president implying that being exposed to all kinds of arguments might threaten democracy, or that the government should be the one in charge of the mystical truth meter. Joseph Goebbels, the head of German Nazi propaganda, couldn't have said it better. That's no earthquake you're feeling, folks. That's the founding fathers spinning in their graves. The president hinted that such exposure to non-government approved content would be responsible for breathtaking change, as if freedom of thought, as guaranteed by the Constitution, had proved itself a failed experiment. The president told the students, "We can't stop these changes." That's an interesting comment from a politician who campaigned on the promise of change, but we can adapt to them. And the best way to adapt, Mr. Obama said, is through government-approved education. And education is what can allow us to do so. It can fortify you, as it did earlier generations, to meet the test of your own time. You know, for much of the last 45 years, I've been an on-site witness to what America's institutes of higher learning are primarily teaching. They're top-heavy with disciples of Marx, Lenin, and Chairman Mao. They have been turning out class after class of dedicated far-left liberals for decades. And until the Internet came of age, the left was able to successfully suppress dissenting views from the general public. Historically, repressive governments always seek to control education. They gain control of the population by indoctrinating the children at an early age. Here's an interesting side note. With the passage of the health care bill, the federal government became the sole supplier of traditional student loans to college students. In a sense, the feds can now decide who gets a college loan and who doesn't. It wasn't until the advent of the Internet that Middle America, which is contemptuously called flyover country by the elite, was able to find out exactly what is being taught on the campuses. Suddenly, the angry mob, so-called, weren't the university students, but their grandparents. You know, I find 2 or 3 things about the president's remarks to be especially troubling. Our nation used to adhere to a strict principle called a multiplicity of voices. The philosophy was that the more competing voices and opinions available in the marketplace, the more chances the truth had to break through and be heard. In fact, it used to be illegal for one company to own both TV stations and the newspaper in the same town. We didn't want them to cross-promote or suppress dissent. Corporations were limited to owning just a few TV stations across the whole country. But once the government started relaxing the rules, ownership of the media began to fall into fewer and fewer hands. Whereas about 40 years ago, hundreds of companies controlled the various media in America, today, almost all media in the U.S. is controlled by only 6 companies. In the old days, one company could only own 40 radio stations across the country. Today, one corporation alone owns more than 1,200. That means the elite don't have to control very many people to control all the media. Instead of too many voices, we now have too few. And the president's remarks were also troubling, given that his administration is currently seeking to gain control of the Internet by placing it under the authority of the Federal Trade Commission. That smacks of universal power the federal government has usurped under the auspices of the interstate commerce laws. Further, Mr. Obama is the first president I can remember whose staff has actively criticized and sought to discredit members of the media who are critical of them. The president himself has even gotten involved in an obvious attempt to suppress criticism. So when the President of the United States tells young, impressionable college graduates that they're hearing too many opinions and getting too much information, that really worries me. Is this a trial balloon, or is it a signal of future intentions? I'll be back in a moment. Folks, we've just completed a major overhaul of our website, HalLindsey.com, in order to bring you more convenient